So the first question is, what is open autonomy? Well, the best way to think about it, just to sort of simplify things, is to think about it as though it were like email, but for social networking and cloud applications. Now, what does this mean? Well, really, email was a way to connect users across different servers and allow them to send information to each other. Well, really, we need the same thing now, but between cloud service providers and social networking providers. They've sort of been left behind in this, and we need to get that back up to where it should be. So it's taking the same ideas of email about how you can connect people across the internet and fast forwarding it to how we use web services, cloud services, and social networking now in the modern age. So now it's about connecting users and information across the open internet. Okay, so why focus on social and cloud applications? What's special about them, and why are we focusing on that within open autonomy? Well, as we've moved to putting more and more information on the internet and actually using internet services more and more, we need the ability to connect those to make sure that we're not having to do a lot of manual legwork to move information from one provider to another. They should be able to cooperate properly. We're the same person using them after all. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we can actually have them connected to each other so they can cooperate directly with each other without making us do a lot of manual work. Social networking is really just a special case of a cloud application. It's a service online where you provide information and you're allowed to provide that to users and have them interoperate with it. So really, social and cloud are kind of the same thing, and open autonomy is to connect those. As we've seen recently, the term cloud computing or cloud application has kind of become a catch-all marketing phrase, but it's kind of unclear what that really means. So for our purposes within open autonomy, all we're going to say that it is a cloud application is a service provided by a website. So all we're interested in doing is being able to connect those different services, and that's what open autonomy is for. The current set of social networks are closed systems controlled by a small number of very large companies. This limits what we can do with them and how they can be extended. If we instead had a decentralized approach, it would actually mean that new innovation could be developed within that world, and also we'd have more control being given to the users in terms of things like privacy and data control and what they're actually allowed to do. Consider, for example, if the phone company worked the way social networks do. Well, the lack of any ability for them to cooperate with each other would mean that you'd only ever be able to call people who use the same phone company that you did. And also it means that if the company ever decided to change their terms of use or their privacy policy, or you found out there was some sort of backdoor in their system, well, how are you going to be able to change to a different provider now? Everyone you talk to still uses this one that's broken. They'd all have to switch at the same time. It's unlikely they're going to do that. Also, what happens if you find a new company that offers better services or does something more the way you want, or that is better suited to your use cases? Well, you can't switch to them either, because now you're tied down to the company where the communication network you have already exists. This is a big problem with how social networking currently works, and it really limits where we can go with it. So what open autonomy is trying to do is provide a way for these systems to communicate across the internet. That way you can have different providers that all offer different features, and they try and actually do things to get the best user experience for the people who use them. You'd have systems that were actually built for the users, not built for the business interests of a very small number of large companies. One of the big concerns that comes about when you start talking about a decentralized system and how to actually manage that on an open internet, how do you do privacy control? If there's no single top-down authority that decides who's allowed to see what, how do you make sure that your private information doesn't get into the wrong hands? Well, open autonomy has a solution to that called a trusted list. Every user has their trusted list of other users. Anyone else asking for trusted content won't see it. Furthermore, you can actually subdivide that into finer granularity access to very specific information. You can have what's called a trusted group. So you can have multiple trusted groups that you're just kind of carving out from your overall trusted list. For example, you might have a group for coworkers, a group for family, a group for friends. So you can make sure that the information that you're sharing with those specific groups only reaches those people. It's not an all or nothing approach. It's not all fully public. It's not all fully private. There's several shades in between that you can actually use. So it gives you, the user, very direct control over the privacy that you're actually putting into your data. One problem right now that we're having with a lot of cloud service providers is that they're failing to get a lot of traction, and the reason is that they're not really providing any new real innovation. And part of this is because they refuse to cooperate. Each of them wants you to use only their services. So each of them needs a way to store data, to edit photos, to collaborate on text documents. All of these things have to be done within each provider. So they're not really getting anywhere because they're essentially coming up with very poor ways of renting back to you services that you already have for free. So it's no wonder they're not going anywhere. If these systems were open and decentralized such that the providers could cooperate and they would allow other people to develop new capabilities for them that would all work together, then we'd actually see some new really interesting ideas come out of the woodwork. So to take a normal example from regarding their standardization requirements, look at how that would work in the real world. If you tried to renovate your kitchen and so you want to get a new fridge, it's like, well, that's fine, but that fridge requires that you also buy the same oven from the same company and put it in the same room. That's the only way they're going to be compatible with your kitchen. This would be ridiculous, but it's something that we kind of accept when trying to deal with cloud service providers. If they could cooperate properly and realize that all they needed was a common kind of electricity, then you'd be fine. This problem wouldn't exist. We shouldn't accept this in the cloud age, and so far people aren't. So using things like OpenAutonomy, it actually provides a way for all these different services to cooperate with each other. This means that we can build new things that are actually worth using, new compelling options, and that's part of where we're going with this. This problem of cloud service providers refusing to cooperate across the internet and needing you to have an account with each one of them isn't really a new problem. It's one we've had for quite a while. In fact, probably email is about the only service that actually works properly across the internet. You can send someone an email without having an email account on that server. But look at everything else. Most random websites you go to require that you have an account with them. Well, this is really frustrating and tedious. Even if you're just trying to comment on a friend's weblog or something, you now need to create an account there and come up with a username and password, hopefully not duplicating a password you use somewhere else, giving them your email address and various other personal information just to make a two-line comment about what someone did on the weekend. This is kind of ridiculous. We should actually be able to do better. And with OpenAutonomy, we can. OpenAutonomy has a single sign-on system. What that means is that you can, once you've got an account somewhere in OpenAutonomy, you have an OpenAutonomy identity on any OpenAutonomy server. Once you have just one, you can use that one to log in everywhere else. And you don't have to worry about passwords or usernames or anything. They just know what you call yourself, and that's it. You don't have to give them any special credentials or any private data. Only the one provider has anything like that regarding how you log into it. So this protects your identity and your personal information, even while it removes the problem of needing multiple accounts on multiple different sites. So it makes it easier and more secure. So if you're interested in what I've talked about today, you're either a just curious user, kind of a technology early adopter, or especially a software developer, and you want to take a look at some of what we've done and use it and provide us some feedback about how we can make it better and make sure that it addresses your needs, then send me an email and I'll add you to the invite list for our new public market trial. Now this is one where it'll give you access to everything that I've described here, and you can try it out and send feedback to us at OpenAutonomy, because we want to make sure this really works. We want to see this go everywhere. We want to see this be the next email, the next big technology that actually moves the internet forward instead of just moving it into someone's personal walled garden. So I hope that you'll work with us on this and let us know what you think. Thanks.